Welcome, folks, to a new Let's Play. I'm Thalo Blue, and this is an indie game that came out about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and this is Thomas Was Alone. This is well, it's a puzzle game. It's a very interesting puzzle game. I'd say it's very laid back. It's not incredibly difficult. I mean, you're not talking about the later levels of Portal as far as difficulty goes. But I'd say it more tells a story than anything else, and a very good one at that. It's a very simple game, and you know, I will warn you now, this is not a very... Well, there's a lot of narrations going, so I probably won't be talking a lot. So, you know, you'll still get to hear the guy talking. You just probably won't hear much from me throughout it. It's not a very long game. I mean, it's about 100 levels, but it's a pretty quick play. So I'll probably breeze through the first 2 to 3 worlds or so, and then leave it at that, and then I'll probably, you know, I'll keep recording, but I'll say, you know, if you want to play this, I really do recommend you to play this, because this is a great indie game. It's not terribly expensive on Steam, but I'm sure if you guys waited, this will be part of a humble indie bundle very soon. But, anyways, let's get started. The program was a failure. People forget this. It was a massive flop. The coder started adding name strings to the AIs as a joke. Thomas AT23612 wasn't special. It was just an AI in the right place at the right time.
Thomas was alone. Wow. A weird first thought to have.
I just want to point out, this guy's voice, Danny Wallace, is... his voice acting here is fantastic. Well, I guess it's voice acting. I mean, narrating. But, surprisingly enough, literally, it's very simple. I mean, it's just a little rectangle. But as we go along, you'll probably find that these little rectangles and squares have more personality than I'd say about 70% of characters in video games nowadays. I can't give these guys enough props. This is fantastic. But basically, just got into the little square rectangle, the white square rectangle, and that's pretty much the level.
Thomas decided to start listing his observations for posterity. 1. The whole alone thing. 2. Portals. They led somewhere. He'd yet to work out where. 3. Falling. Thomas was absolutely fantastic at falling. He was almost as good at falling as he was at observing.
It's a very... Oh yeah, and I want to point out, David Housden's composing for the music is great.
Interesting. Thomas couldn't fall past this block. Think, damn it, think. What if there was some kind of inverted fall? Some way to... what's the word? Jump.
Ha ha ha. Clever.
A big jump. But Thomas noted there was no real danger in missing it. The world didn't want him to fail here. It was pushing him, but gently. This all seemed a little dangerous. The world was not to be trusted. It was unstable, and it seemed to Thomas that it could let him down at any moment.
Okay.
He was starting to suspect.
Uh-oh. Aw, man. Sorry about that.
Thomas wondered whether the portals were actually taking him anywhere. He felt like he was making progress, but there wasn't really any way to know. He seemed to be moving predominantly up and to the right, which might, or might not, be important. It might have been paranoia again, but Thomas could have sworn the world was becoming more complicated. It always seemed to be one step ahead of his skills. It had been designed just for him. He wondered why. Was the world testing him? No, too obvious. Something about the boiling, toxic, glowing water intimidated Thomas. He didn't like it. He certainly didn't want to swim in it. He made another mental note. 4. Water. Not good. To be avoided.
Yeah, so these are like, I guess, respawn blocks, I guess you could call them? I have no idea. So basically, if you fall in the water or die or get crushed or something, you start there. Fairly straightforward, but as you can probably guess, the game does get harder.
The loneliness was getting to Thomas. No amount of observation or obsessive note-taking could combat that.
Oh. God, just listen to that.
Thomas had a new theory. The world was training him. He could feel himself getting smarter. There was the mental list to consider. Over the minutes and seconds since his spontaneous generation, he'd become a pretty skilled jumper. He was evolving. He just wished he had someone to share it with.
No.
Chris took an immediate and deep dislike to the skinny red rectangle. Who the hell did this Thomas think he was?
Aww. So this is Chris. Basically, he's small and can't really jump very high, so he pretty much needs assistance from everyone.
Chris had been doing fine. He wasn't the highest jumper, but he'd held his own. He'd even been graceful at times. Well, not technically graceful. It's probably the wrong word, but you know, fine. There was that skinny little runt leaping about like he owned the place.
Actually, before I... Oh! Aw, damn it. Before I continue, I'm just going to check the recording just to see if the music's too loud. 1 second. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that the music was actually pretty loud.
Okay. This was more like it. A glowy white thing. Only Chris could get to it, which of course made it all the more enticing. What would it do? What new opportunity might this switch open up to him?
Come on, Chris, let's go.
Grace. Another chance for Thomas to jump slightly higher than Chris. Fortunate. Seriously, this made the whole switch pressing thing entirely worthwhile. Was this good? Because on the surface, it did not seem good. Chris was pretty scared. Little Red seemed fine, happy to be on his merry little adventure. Chris couldn't shake the feeling that things had taken a significant turn for the worse since Thomas had joined him. Sure, he'd been able to piggyback his way to ever so slightly higher platforms, but where had that got him? Well, to ever so slightly higher platforms, which was Sort of his point.
Oh, come on. Sometimes the jumping is a little responsive. I don't really know how to explain it, but...
Chris stared at Thomas with pure hatred. He seemed so very happy at their situation. Friends together, a brave fellowship of quadrilaterals on a quest for greatness. That would be fine. But it was all the obvious observation that Thomas was doing which grated. Every time they saw something vaguely new, Chris would hear a satisfied little from the vaulting idiot. He hoped the next portal would split them up, if only for a few levels.
Ah, no, it doesn't move. I also just want to point out, look at those lighting effects. That's just nice. Like, even for, you know, a very, well, simple-looking game, there's a hell of a lot of depth to it.
John knew. He knew that this was his chance. A moment to shine. This was game day. This would not do. John needed room to show off his exceptional skills. As it was, he was trapped on the wrong side of these little dot things. Where did they come from, anyway? John inhaled the air of the open space, and it smelled of awesome.
Yep, now as you can
Time
probably
to flex
tell,
those muscles, to put his training to use, time to show those little dots how it was done.
you can probably tell
John decided to press the switch, to let the little dots catch up with him. John cared for his new allies.
Yep, he is a very
You could
fast
tell
character,
from the
very
sympathetic expression
strong, I
practiced in
guess.
the mirror all these years.
Okay, so... assuming he has to jump on them.
John was happy to keep helping. He felt it was important to his image that he was seen to help the little guys.
Perhaps I missed something. There we go.
He didn't mind them so much either.
Oops.
The red one,
Crap.
Thomas, had a charming way of applauding every time John jumped.
No, crap.
The angry orange one was less immediately likeable, but his unremitting cynicism and tutting amused John. This was interesting. A floating target. This would require coordination, balance, and timing. John was sure the dots would be lost, but he was happy to guide them to triumph. Maybe that's what the dots were for. They were there to extend John's reach, to make his performance even more impressive. John liked the thought. He decided to keep them.
Quite the ego. Now this character is probably my favorite. And there's a number of reasons, but this is probably, well, you'll see. It's Claire.
This was how Claire would die.
Oh.
She knew it would happen eventually.
Oh.
She was rubbish at jumping, and she moved slowly. She felt a little like her continued existence was breaking some kind of natural order. The crumbling pillar was a dramatic death, she supposed. Wait, what? Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was not, in fact, dead. It was at that moment that Claire realised she had superpowers.
I love it.
She'd need a cape. There was no getting around that. You couldn't be a superhero without a cape. Claire didn't want confusion. If you saw a cape, that made matters clear. You knew what you were dealing with. Claire was all about communication. And, you know, floating in water, which was her superpower.
See, it's just so cute. You can't not like it. It's like adorable. I don't know. It's got a lot of charm, this game.
All right. Fear not, my skinny friends, for I am Claire, and I will save you. Claire needed to come up with a superhero name as soon as possible. Claire was rubbish.
I kind of like Claire.
Claire arrived just in time, which was, of course, the perfect moment for superheroes to arrive. As the water began to rise, Claire vowed to save this little rectangle in as many restarts as it took. Claire wondered if Thomas would make a good sidekick. Or was she more the lone Avenger type? She'd like that. The sole hero in a world of rectangles and conveniently placed pools of toxic water. The others told Claire that staircases were a bit of a fixture here. Claire wondered why the world made it so difficult.
Oops.
Probably needed a nemesis. A villain who would show their true colours at the worst possible moment, hurting all she held dear. Chris was the most obvious choice. He seemed stroppy enough, and his jump was so pathetic that it conveniently avoided Claire's insecurities. Yes, Chris. Diabolical Chris. The fiendish Christopher.
Wait, what? Oh, I guess they can't go with me. Duh.
Thomas gone? Was he off somewhere? Plotting Claire's downfall? If Claire was honest, and she had to be because she was a superhero, this was a troubling turn of events. Still, there were reasonably sized bodies of water to cross. Moving platforms over water, eh? Claire's newly heightened senses told her that there were multiple paths across with various possible configurations of the little posse.
Oh no! Damn it.
They were doing really well. Claire hoped she could get them all across. John was fully aware he could do this alone. Thomas hoped he'd never have to.
Oh. I'm telling you, this game is just... it's just sad, you know? I don't know. Uh-oh, spikes.
Claire was alone, which was odd, because she wasn't meant to be alone. She needed to be where there were rectangles to save. Being the only superhero in a given space kind of defeats the object. Spikes? That was new. Claire avoided them. She decided they were most likely her kryptonite. Not the rubbish red kryptonite either, the proper radioactive green stuff.
Yeah. Hey, Thomas.
Wow. Deja vu. The world was repeating. And this time Thomas was here. Claire felt something had gone wrong. There was a disturbance in the Force. Something had altered the Matrix. The world was reacting to their progress. It was amassing its forces.
References.
It was plotting against them. Claire finally had a nemesis.
Uh-oh. Ah, damn it. Oh, what? I need that. Ooh. I think I did that quite poorly. Oh yeah, no, I did that poorly. I see. Okay, folks, well, that was the first 3 worlds done. I'm going to cut the recording off here. But I will say that I'm going to keep playing, but I really do recommend, if you are watching it up to this point and you have not played this, I really do recommend you should play it for yourself. I really do. Hello.
Laura was pleased
Laura.
this one was behind the wall. Maybe he'd never know what she could do. Maybe they could just have a conversation. Hang out. As long as he didn't find out what she could do. Which would never happen so long as they stayed separate.
Okay, so I'm going to cut the recording off here. So, if you want to keep watching, feel free to do so. If not, play this game. I really recommend you to do it. I really do. So I'll see you in the next video.